The Bachelorette recap: who let the dogs out? The Bachelorette came so close to getting it right. Two weeks ago, Becca and Colton drove over the Virgin River, presumably one of the driest rivers in Bone Dry, Nevada. Last week, they went to Virginia, which, as we were repeatedly told, is for lovers, even though it's named after somebody who didn't do much loving at all. Then on Monday night, Colton finally revealed to Becca his deepest, darkest secret, that he has never done a sex while the pair was in the Bahamas. Here's my beef: how did the show not force them to go to the Virgin Islands? Come on. It was right there. Yes, Colton is a virgin. He said that he doesn't like to talk about this much. I'm not even sure my dad knows, Colton admitted, because he apparently believes the person most likely to know about any man's sexual activity is his dad. Will Colton tell his dad when he ditches virginity and becomes a sex guy? Stay tuned. I have my doubts, though, because he did seemingly talk about it on Plenty the Bachelorette. Every other contestant seemed to know about his virginity, and the show's cameraman knew about it enough to do this. Everything else was going really well for Colton and Becca before his admission. Becca was describing Colton as a bronzed god and saying things like, "He can pick me up and do whatever he wants to do." That's the horniest thing anybody has ever said on The Bachelorette, a show in which, every season, The Bachelorette picks 3 contestants she wants to have sex with and then has sex with them. If there's anybody on the show that The Bachelorette describes as a bronzed god and says that he is allowed to pick you up and do whatever he wants to do, the show should end right there. That's probably the guy she wants to be in a relationship with. So you wouldn't have expected the virginity thing to shake Becca. Recent polling reveals that almost 100% of Americans are either virgins or were once virgins, but when Colton dropped the V-bomb, it gave her pause. Literally, she got up in the middle of their dinner and walked away to compose her thoughts. Personally, I find that a really good thing to do when somebody is being vulnerable and opening up to you is to immediately walk away. It ensures that the vulnerable person will have enough time to stew in their self-hatred and doubt. Eventually, and mercifully, Becca returned and invited Colton to next week's hometown dates. Maybe there they can talk to his dad about his ongoing virginity. Second biggest missed opportunity: more Colton jokes. On the second date of the episode, Garrett and Becca went riding on a seaplane. It was pretty boring as it turns out. Garrett is pretty bad at talking, which is something we honestly should have figured out when his opening move this season was to do a Chris Farley Van Down by the River impression in the year 2018. But one thing I noticed was the tail of the seaplane, which bore the logo of a small Barbadian airline corporation called Trans Island Air. Specifically, it just had Dia written on it in huge letters. I can't believe this. First, producers forget to take Colton the Virgin to the Virgin Islands, and then they also forget to have Colton, the guy who dated ex-contestant Dia, ride a plane that literally says Tia on it? Come on. This is easy. Do I have to do everything around here? Most confusing moment, the Baha Men. Unfortunately, being in the Bahamas threw a real wrench in the Bachelorette's weekly tradition of having generic male radio country music singer serenade lovers. I'm sure they could have gotten a completely generic male radio country music singer to fly to the Bahamas, but it wouldn't have felt right to have Braden Wrangler or Taylor Lubbock or Hunter Rivers jamming out on the beach. Instead, because the show was in the Bahamas, we got the Baha Men. That's right, the Grammy Award-winning artists who made the first song I ever got tired of hearing, Who Let the Dogs Out. That's right, they won a Best Dance Recording Grammy for that song. Justin Timberlake and Lady Gaga and Rihanna and Madonna and the Baha Men have won that award. The Grammys are weird. The first time the men were shown on screen, they were performing Who Let the Dogs Out? Because obviously, it is, by far, their largest hit. Someone in the crowd had a dog on a leash, apparently under the belief he was attending a concert by the band that made the song. Who properly maintained control of the dogs? If I were in the Baha Men, I would definitely keep about 30 or 40 dogs backstage at every concert, and then at the end of every concert, I'd pretend that we were about to finish the performance without playing Who Let the Dogs Out? And we'd pick up all our instruments and leave the stage, but then we'd come back and play the song and unleash the herd of pups into the thrilled crowd. Just an idea. However, Becca was not there when the Baha Men played Who Let the Dogs Out? She was meeting up with her date, Blake, and telling him that they were going for a romantic stroll down the beach. But, surprised, she told the camera about her secret plan to lead him to the Baha Men, who were going to perform their new song, Bumpa. This must have been confusing for Blake. He was walked to a concert of a band playing a song that was not Who Let the Dogs Out? He danced for a bit, he probably observed the dog and thought, wow, weird that somebody brought a dog here. And then he and Becca left. Does he even know that he saw a Grammy Award-winning artist? Biggest humble brag, Chris Harrison. This episode didn't have a rose ceremony, just 4 dates, one of which featured the elimination of 2 contestants. That's a bummer for Chris Harrison, whose primary job is to show up at the rose ceremonies to tell everybody that there's 1 rose remaining. Let it never be said that Chris Harrison can't count, because he's certainly counting this paper. The show couldn't completely abandon Chris, though he's a producer on the show, and you bet your ass he's taking that free trip to the Bahamas. So the episode started with a forced conversation between Chris and Becca. It was a good talk, full of normal stuff like, "You went to Vegas and how would you bet on this season ending?" Chris Harrison, Segway King. But my favorite part was when Becca revealed that she'd never been to the Bahamas. Chris responded, with an air of incredulity, "You've never been here before?" She explained how great it is, to which he then responded, "I'm feeling like I'm here for the first time, too." Chris Harrison wants you to know that he has been to the Bahamas before, and he has no idea how some of you peasants haven't. Then, after this one conversation, Chris departed and never appeared in the episode again. His job was over, the checks were cashed, and he was free to spend a few days in the Bahamas sipping on cocktails by the beach and not having to feign interest in whether Becca finds love. My guy knows how to live. Get paid, king. Biggest overplay, conch humor. Just as Colton was about to tell Becca about his virginity on a boat, the two were interrupted by another boat honking at them. The boat was driven by a native Bahamian who wanted to teach them how to dive for conch. Colton dove to the bottom of the shallow water and caught some conch suspiciously easily, at which point the Bahamian men prepared the conch for them to eat, while eagerly informing the two that conch is an aphrodisiac.